This is going to be a series called Manga and Makeup. Well, tentative title is Manga and Makeup, but it was inspired by Kenny JD's Bad Movies and a Beat. Well, basically, I'm going to talk about a manga and then do a makeup look inspired by that manga. And this is not always going to be on the channel, but this is what I felt like starting off with. So, anyway, manga and makeup. This week's series is So I'm a Spider. When is it not gonna wash out? Okay, this week's series is So I'm a Spider, So What? It's a series where a girl discovers that she's been reincarnated as a spider. Okay, so the series So I'm a Spider, So What? What is it about? It's about a character. You never really learn her name. She's like 17-year-old Japanese schoolgirl. So she's in class one day minding her own business because she's not like the most popular or sociable character in this story. And she's just sitting with her head down in the beginning of class. All of her classmates are mile about talking. The teacher finally comes around, tells everybody to shut up and get ready for class. And right as the teacher's beginning the lesson, the whole class like disintegrates. Like everything turns all pixelated and the whole class just starts like disintegrating. So everything goes black, and when she wakes up, she's in this dark space. She says she feels a lot of pressure around her. And as she pushes against the pressure, she finds herself escaping from this dark place and emerges from what was her shell into a room filled with spiders. So at first she's freaking out because there's like a bunch of spiders everywhere, and she's like, what the fuck is going on? Where are all these spiders coming from? And then she realizes, wait, I'm a spider too. So that realization freaks her out, and she's like, hold on, I'm a spider. And then she starts seeing all the other spiders around her have started fighting each other and eating each other. And she's like, y'all, I ain't about to die here, so let's go. So she starts running away from them and comes into contact with this giant spider that's like 50 times bigger than her. And goes, you must be our mother. So she thinks she's saved until mom's giant legs start spearing the other baby spiders and killing them. And she's like, oh, we're just a snack to you. Okay, it's time to go. So she sees this little crack in the wall and hightails it up to the crack. Just as Mama's leg is slamming down after her, she makes it into the crack and disappears down this crevice. So she's escaped for now. Okay, so she's running away, and she comes and finds a set of human footprints, and she's like, those are human footprints, let me follow those. I'm sure following a human will help me get free and escape. But she starts to realize when she gets to the footprints that them footprints are pretty tiny. Okay? So she was thinking the whole time that she's like a regular size spider, but the footprints are so small for the human footprints that she's starting to realize she's a big spider compared to a human. And if she's like half the size of a full-grown human, then the mother spider is freaking huge. And so at that time, she's like, you know what would come in handy if I had an appraisal skill? Something I could use to help me find out what's going on, what's around me. That would be useful. And right as she's thinking that, this little text thing pops up and it's like, would you like to unlock the appraisal skill for 100 points? So she's like, yeah, that would be dope. Let's unlock the appraisal skill. She unlocks the appraisal skill for 100 points, but it's basically useless. Like, you look at the wall, it says wall. You pick up a rock, it says stone. Like, it's good for nothing. And so she's like, well, I basically just wasted 100 points. This is next to useless. She's going off on the footprints trying to find a way out of there, but all it's doing is leading her to an old human camp where humans used to be at, where there are no longer humans at now. So, at the camp, though, is a dead spider that looks surprisingly like her. So she's like, oh, humans kill monsters like me. So if I meet a human, there might not be a friend. But she still resolved herself, as she was once human, to not kill any humans. So she's going, well, I need to find myself a safe space. And decides, she finds a cave opening. It's kind of like this. So you got the back wall, and then you got 3 tunnels going off of it where to travel. And she makes her nest right there in the middle, and on each one of those tunnels she makes a separate web so that if a creature's kind of come down there, they'll get stuck in the web before they get to her in the nest. Okay, so the whole time she hasn't eaten anything. Like, she hasn't eaten anything, and she's says she's getting hungry. And she's coming down to the fact that even though she doesn't want to, she's gonna have to find something to eat pretty soon. But since there are no other creatures around, she turns back to the dead spider corpse she found in the other tunnel and decides, like, that's gonna have to make do. So she eats her sibling's corpse and gains a title called Kin Eater. You know how, like, in video games, when you do certain things, certain criteria, and it unlocks, like, a title for you, like, slay 100 whatever enemies, you get the Slayer title, you know, cook however many meals, you get the chef title. Well, she got the Kin Eater title that she can now apply to herself so that when other creatures see her, they can see her title of Kin Eater. I don't know what good that's gonna do, but it's there. So, eventually, she gets hungry again and she's waiting for prey to show up. And this frog-like thing gets caught in her web. So she comes up towards the creature, hoping to find some way to kill it and eat it, and test out her skills at the same time. And it spits poison at her. And so now she's come to the conclusion of course, enemies are going to have abilities. Like, why did I not think that it was going to be able to attack me? Oh yeah, and poison hurts. So eventually she figures out its attack pattern and ends up dodging it and finding a way to kill it with her poison fangs. So now at least she hasn't died. But she's got so much damage that, you know, the little bit of eating she's doing isn't really helping. And all the creatures that she's finding and able to eat are all poisonous. So the whole time, while, because she has a certain level of poison in her body because she's a spider, she's not like losing health. She's not gaining health from eating anything either, but she is gaining poison resistance from eating the other poisonous animals in the cave. So in the next chapter, she comes across this egg, right? So she finds an egg and takes it home and doesn't think anything more about it, of that she's gonna eat it the next day and hopefully it'll taste good and better than the bitter poisonous apple animals that she's come across so far in the labyrinth. Okay, all sis wants is a good meal. And she goes to bed, wakes up in the middle of the night to find out that a human is escaping from her tunnel with the egg. So the human has gotten stuck in the webs and can't get loose. And she's just about to just, saddle up and take the egg from him when dude pulls out a bottle, smashes it, and ends up setting himself and the web on fire. So he sets himself on fire to get loose from her and escape the web. And she's looking at this like, you really just set yourself on fire just to get loose and get away from me. But now she thinks the egg is like some super rare item, because if the humans want it, then it must be something really good and she can't wait to eat it. And she's so excited about this damn thing that she literally wraps her, she attaches webs to it, hoists it up like a piñata, and drops it on this really sharp rock because, she couldn't figure out any other way to open it. She tried biting it, tried scratching it, clawing at it. It wouldn't open. So she finally hoists the thing up and tries to drop it from a height on top of a pointed rock, but it splits the rock in half. So, like, you're not getting it that way either. Eventually, she comes to this thing like, maybe I can do the thing like when they put rubber bands around watermelons and the pressure eventually snaps it. So she wraps it all the way up in web, all the way around, trying to make it as tight as possible to break it in half, and it still doesn't budge. So at that point, she's like, forget it, whatever, we're not getting in there. So the whole time she's been hunting monsters and creatures and using her skills trying to upgrade them. And eventually she goes up the next level. Eventually she goes up the next level. And as soon as she levels up, all of her wounds and stuff disappear. Her skin molts. She gets this new patterning on her exoskeleton and everything. Just upgrades. And leveling up unlocks it increases your skills too. So all the skills that you were using during that level upgrade as well. So she comes to a realization that life in this world is kind of like a game. So you fight creatures to level up. As you level up, your stats and your skills increase and all your wounds heal at the level up. So she keeps on doing what she has been doing after she levels up, which is hunt creatures, kill them, unlock new skills and experience, and then use that to upgrade your skills and make your stats go up. And she comes across this creature, and that's called a basilisk. And the basilisk turns out to be a much more difficult creature than any of the other ones she's faced so far, and quickly goes to kicking her butt, kicking her ass. Okay, so she's running away from this thing, right? Like, it's killing her. It's already petrified one of her legs, and she's tried everything she can think of to attack this thing, but she can't get around its stone vision. So what she does is she runs around behind the egg, and uses the egg as a barrier between her and the basilisk. And while it's focused on the egg, she climbs up to the ceiling and drops down from above with her web and like a sheet and slams it right over its eyes. And then she takes the egg and slams the egg on top of its head, right? Just like, no cap, bap. That thing just goes, it's dead, yo. Okay, so far she's been having like a fairly peaceful life in the labyrinth. She's chilling, um, you know, battling creatures, eating them, and only an occasional foe has turned out to be too much for her to handle. And so far it's become a good life. She's getting comfortable with the routine. The day by day is not bothering her anymore. And she's, settled into this comfortable version of what her new life is going to be like. Until all of a sudden, she sleeps one night and she wakes up to find her whole nest is on fire. Turns out the humans came back for that egg. They wanted that egg, and they came back with a whole troop of people, torches and swords to come get that egg. And they burned down her whole house for it. And on top of burning down her shit, they also just start chasing her for like, I guess just to make sure she's dead and she ain't gonna come back for the egg. But at this point, like, they don't know she's got a human mindset. She's terrified. She's like, oh no, I'm done. I ain't got time. I got the energy for this. I'm out. So she escapes from the area where the humans are at, but now she's having like an existential crisis because that was her home. That's the one place that she belonged, that she finally found where she fit in and she was comfortable at. Especially since she's been transformed into this fighter. Like, back in the old world, when she was going to school, she didn't really fit in with her classmates either. That wasn't really an experience for her that made her feel welcome. But living this life in the labyrinth, she had become very comfortable with the sort of life that she made for herself. So losing all of that in a span of a few minutes was kind of devastating. There is nowhere she can go, no one she can turn to for help. She just gotta figure out and start all over again, all on her own. So she gets tired of moping about it and comes up with the conclusion that she's got three options. Either make a new nest in a different spot, keep wandering around the dungeon forever, or try and find an exit and get out. So she pretty much axes the idea of just setting up shop somewhere else to just sit there and while the time away. Like, she's like, we're not doing that again because the same thing probably could happen again. Somebody's gonna come by, destroy everything, and then I'm back to this again. So she said she doesn't know where the exit is right now. So the only option he has is option number 2, to wander around until she finds an exit. So she does the same thing around, wandering around from location to location. Basically like how she was doing before. fighting monsters and leveling up. At this point, her appraisal skills like a level 4. She's got poison resistance and poison fangs. Got full control of her webs and stuff like that. And all of her skills are at a pretty decent level. But she's still like one of the lower ranked creatures in the labyrinth. So she comes across this creature that's basically like a giant centipede, and it gives off a lot of experience points when you kill it. And the first one she found one by itself. It was pretty easy to kill, and it gave off a lot of experience points, so she's wandering around looking for another one, and here's the sounds that was making. It says that sounds like another centipede. I'm going to use appraisal. Since I've got the high ground, I could probably kill it pretty easily. And she looks down into this hole that is in and uses the appraisal skill, only to find out there's not one centipede down there. There's like hundreds. And they're all scuttling around each other. They're all scuttling around each other like that's their nest. Just like climbing on top of each other. A tangle mass of centipedes at the bottom of this hole. And of course, she freaks the fuck out. Right? Because it's scary. There's a bunch of fucking centipedes. But more than that, they notice her. So she starts running for her life. And the whole time she's running away, she can see like her stamina points. The whole time she's running away, she can see like her stamina points dropping. And it gets to the point where she's really like, she can't run away from them anymore because the stamina is so low now that it's starting to like deplete her health. Like she can't run away anymore. She's gonna die. And just then she falls down a hole, and the centipedes stop following her. They're like, nope, we're done. We're not going down there. They scurry around the top of the hole to see if she's going to come back up, but they don't go down. That should have been a sign. So while she's down there, she makes this little tent out of her webbing and is sitting there chilling, trying to regain her strength and her strength and her health, because the centipedes have done such a job on her. They depleted her stats so much that she needs time for recovery. And so she sits there with her tent and tries to recuperate. But along comes this giant snake. And it sees her chilling in her hole. And it's like, you look tasty. And starts attacking her out of nowhere. But this is like par for the course of the creatures in the labyrinth by now, so she runs around to try and she's running away, trying to get away from this thing, but it keeps striking at her, and she realizes she can't run away. She's got to turn around and fight it. So she jumps around and ends up jumping, like right up underneath his throat, like right here, and clamping down with her poison fangs, trying to kill it that way. She figures that it won't be able to reach her underneath the jaw because it's a giant snake. But of course, snake's not stupid, so it takes its hair, rizzle like that, and smacks her on the ground. So she's like dazed and confused for a few seconds, but she ends up wrapping the snake in more web so that it's like curved around itself inside an S shape, and it can't get quite free, and she injects more poison into it and ends up killing the snake. And when she kills the snake, she gets a huge boost. She jumps all the way from level 7 to level 10 and ends up being able to go undergo evolution. And she has to pick between two options of small pterodactyl, lesser pterodactyl, which is the different types of breeds of spider that she can become. Like a pterodactyl is basically the spider, and she can be a small spider, or she can become like a more evolved, like a bigger spider, but still like not the most evolved. Like it's like going up a level, like small, medium, and large. You're going from small to medium, but this is going from like small to lesser. So she decides to be a small pterodactyl because she's afraid that she'll get too big to navigate the small tunnels in the that she'll be get too big to navigate the smaller tunnels in the labyrinth. And so after she chooses which evolution she wants, she passes out. When she wakes up, all of her stats are back to normal. She's back elevated. The only thing that didn't go back up is one of her stamina bars, and as soon as she eats, that goes all the way back up. But she's so hungry that she ends up eating the entirety of the giant snake body that was there. So she's like, at this point, she needs to find an exit. And as she's exploring around, she sees this bright light at the end of the tunnel and thinks, oh, that must be the exit, and starts to go towards it, only to find out that it's more humans with pitchforks and that it's more humans with swords and fire to hunt her down. So she's like, come at me. At this point, she's tired of it. She's had it. She's done. But turns out that while she's a level 10, they're like level 28, 32. They way too strong for her. So she starts booking it again. And she comes towards two forks in the tunnel. She's going to go left, but as she's going left, she sees there's another one of them huge snakes coming down from the left tunnel. She ain't got time to fight that. So then she goes to the right. And as she's going down the right, there's these 3 lizards standing at the end of the tunnel. And she's like, well, I can just zip around, y'all. She zips around the small lizards, jets out the end of the tunnel, and ends up falling hundreds of feet to like the bottom of the labyrinth. And that's where volume 1 ends. So that's been volume 1 of So I'm a Spider, So What? I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll leave links in the description for the items that I used on my face. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!